Hi, Katie. It's so
Hi.
great to see you today. I'm glad you're here. We're going to talk a little bit about your passion project, the Untold Stories of Motherhood. And wow, I have been on this journey with you for the last few months, and you've been on it a little bit longer than me because I think I said no the first few times. So I'm really honored to be here with you and just to ask you a little bit about, what was it that inspired you to take on this project and what was that about for you?
You know, a big part of taking this project on was going through the pandemic after having a baby through postpartum, where no one could visit, no one could come over, no one could talk. It was so lonely and so desolate. And I left my full-time career in order to be at home with the baby. There was no daycares open. I mean, it just was a complete life turn upside down. And all we're seeing through that journey, or all I was seeing through that journey is, the social media and the TV and all of that, which none of that is real. And then in full disclosure, my awesome stepdaughter, who just graduated from college with a bachelor's, she was in a communication course, and she happened to mention that the statistics in media and everything portrayed is like 85 to 95% written by, produced by men, directed by men. Women
Wow.
are really not involved in that process. And then as I began to research, of course, through history, books now are easy to write, but they weren't. And so even in the last 100 years, having women get an education to write was not that common. So when we think about all of history, everything we've read about what it is to be a woman or to be a mother, like 95% of that is written and portrayed by men. Even medical books about pregnancy and delivering babies is written by men. And that is so insane. So when we're watching movies and television and all of these things, and we as women, we're judging ourselves by this ideal of what we should be looking like, feeling like, interacting like. None of it's real. None of it is even being told through a woman's eyes or experience. So to counterbalance that, I wanted to create this project about motherhood. And to counterbalance that as well is I wanted to gather women and tell our real stories. Because in media, motherhood's kind of portrayed as like the cookie baking, soft, sweet lady or the slut.
Mhm.
And there's these, or one of my biggest pet peeves is the hero of the story. The woman is almost always the sidekick, but even if she's not, a lot of times the story is, I'm going to go save the world, I'm going to do this, and the portrayal of the woman is like, I love you, go do what you need to do, I will be here waiting, you can go,
Right.
be disloyal, be dishonest, and you could do whatever you need to do, and I will hold down the fort and watch the babies because this is my dream. And so this is such a paradigm shift, that women have voices and feelings, and we are full feeling, full spectrum
Yeah.
people. So that was really behind it.
That's so beautiful. I mean, it's just to have that female perspective. It's so funny because I've heard you share that in social media and in other conversations we've had as well, that whole concept of men tell the stories, right? And to be able to tell the story from our perspective of someone who's lived it and experienced it, is as much as I adore and love the men in my life, they will never know what it's like to be pregnant and to deliver and then to be the milk cow for the year after
Yeah. Yeah.
or 2 years after. And I say that lightly because it is what it is, but that's a real experience. And we talk about that experience in this book and share what that feels like to have lived that and survived that. And one of the things you've written a few chapters in the book, and so I want to just touch on those just a little bit. One of in very different perspectives, you covered quite a bit of territory in this book as far as perspective taking, and that says a lot about your lived experience as a mother. Right.
Yes.
and what you have endured and survived, but also those moments that you've cherished and loved. And so you wrote a chapter on it's called Losing Jonah. Can you tell me a little bit about who that chapter is for?
Oh, so that chapter is the story of losing my almost 2-year-old son unexpectedly, and the process of just trying to heal, and what I thought as a mother that meant, and for a long time feeling like God didn't have any trust in me, because if God did, then Jonah wouldn't have been taken. What I also touch on is I felt like it was important to tell my perspective of that, and something that is really significant about loss, and I feel like is important to convey, is in all the years since having that loss, I can't count how many people have talked to me, given me bumper sticker wisdom, have told me about so-and-so who lost so-and-so, or given me their, like, let me tell you this story, or,
Yeah.
he's in a better place, or this is how it works in the afterlife. And I think I think I could probably maybe count less than 5 people that have ever said, what are you feeling? What are you thinking as you're processing this? Because everyone doesn't know what to say. So they're just, a lot of it's not even their own experience. They're just replaying what they've heard about grief and things like that. So I feel like it was really important for me to say, this is what it was for me, because I know there's other parents out there, especially mothers who have lost children, who feel alone, who feel like they aren't being seen and aren't finding that. And I really just told the story honestly. I had journal entries in there from that time. I can only share the story from the way that I view it. I can't speak for Jonah's father, grandparents. So that's the way I told it, with hopefully honoring their experience, but just saying this was my journey of that. So it was important for me.
Beautiful. What I love about this chapter is I am a mother, but I've never thankfully experienced losing my own child. And so when I've had friends or family or loved ones, or even clients that have come to me for support in processing that or working through that, it's very difficult to be able to be there and to companion them through that, and to know what to say or how to say it, and all, it's just a hard thing. It's incredibly hard thing. And one of the things that I got to do recently was just read that chapter, just sit with someone and read it aloud, and just share from your experience to them, and then I'll give them permission to experience or feel whatever they got to feel, and without telling them one thing or encouraging them another way, but just to share. And that was just such a powerful experience for me, knowing that there's no way I could have those words, but in that moment you were there and you were sharing, and they were receiving, and it was such a huge blessing for them. So thank you for being brave and sharing in that way. Another thing that you wrote about, which I actually witnessed and experienced with you,
I
was single momdom, and what that is like.
Yes. Such a
Can you
cool.
share that?
Yes, that's so my main chapters that I felt like really strongly about was the losing Jonah. I also wrote about postpartum, and then I also wrote about single mom, because holy smokes, single mom, you feel so dang alone. But it's also one of the most empowering, liberating experiences of your life. You like, as terrifying it is as it is, it's also one of the most strengthening, growing experiences. And you never, like it, I always say, I would sit there at the end of the night, and I lived in this townhouse complex, and I would see all the husbands coming home at the end of the night, and I'd see them all pulling in. And I remember sitting there one time and I'd say, there's no Calvary coming for you, Katie. Like, childcare is on you. Like, emotional, financial, like, this is on you, Katie. The fort is surrounded. what I really found in that chapter, and this is what is so amazing about that time in my life, is not just being able to do things I never thought that I could and survive like I never thought that I could, but it was the single mom friends more than any other friends who had either been single moms or were currently single moms that just, we linked arms, and there were so many times that I needed childcare, or something fell through or got called to work, and you know, no condemnation, no judgment, but I experienced that women who had never been a single mom really didn't understand the predicament you were in.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas if I would call the single moms who were like less on money and less on time, way less than a lot of the other mothers that I knew, they're like, I got it. I will figure it out. Because they understood,
Yeah.
they understood. And so you're in that chapter, and a lot of people are, but that chapter to me is really, I really want to speak to the single moms that are just feeling so alone, and just honor them for the power and the strength that they have. So that's one of my favorite
Beautiful.
chapters. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. And then the postpartum, do you want to speak a little bit about what that was like, or who you had in mind when you were writing that, maybe?
Well, when I wrote this, or when I wanted to do this book, I didn't want to write my postpartum because I just was too raw. And I also didn't want my kids to ever read it and think I didn't love them. And so I reached out to some people asking if they would, and they said, no, I won't, because I don't want my kids to ever think I don't love them, and it's too raw.
Yeah.
So I realized I couldn't ask what I wasn't willing to give. And I trust that someday my little guy will understand. I had basically raised all of my first 4 kids, and our little guy came as a surprise in my mid-40s, and my hormones were just off, completely off. Physically, my body just had a completely different experience. And I've never had a harder postpartum experience, and even feeling completely despondent and like I couldn't make it through. Like, speaking of the devil, he's come running in. But it's okay, Bubba, I'll come. So that was, I felt like, so important for mothers who feel like they're failing if they're not 100%. Yes. If they're not enjoying every moment and they're doing it poorly, and they're, that's so important to do. Yeah, there's my little postpartum.
Hi, Bubba.
So there's that. And then, I don't know how much time we'll have now with this little guy, but I want to share, like, one of my favorite things about the book is that I've had mothers, like adult mothers with their daughters in their 20s, that have messaged me and saying, I'm giving these to my daughters who are having babies, who are experiencing postpartum. And then throughout the book, you'll see a lot of sketches, Keisha's family's in there, and the covers, all that, almost all the sketches are from me, and they're all of friends. And I asked people to send me photos of what they visualized there, or what they thought exemplified motherhood. And so this, when I say passion project, like, it's a passion project for me. I wanted mothers who often don't share or aren't heard to feel heard and seen. So
beautiful. Thank you, Katie Jo. It was such an honor and a pleasure to be part of this project, and thanks for inviting me to participate, but also thank you for having the courage to really reach out and ask these women to share their stories, and to lead out by sharing your own. It's really life-changing for me, and I'm sure for many others who will be able to reach. So how can they find you, Katie?
The easiest way to find me is to just katiejodrum.com. I'm actually known as an artist and a drum maker. So that's the easiest way to connect with me. And we're going to be launching this book every single year. So if you want to share your story, or you have a mother that that feels like their story is valuable, every story of motherhood is valuable. But if they're ready for their own personal healing, and we're creating a program to counterbalance the stories, we get to share our stories. So just find me there. I'm on Instagram and every Katie Jo Drum, you'll find me. So
beautiful. Thank you so much, Katie. Pleasure to interview you today.
Thank you. Have a beautiful day.